This is Carl Palachuk, and you're listening to the SMB Community Podcast, produced by and for the Small Biz Thoughts community. We're dedicated to making every IT professional a successful IT professional.
This episode is brought to you by DNS Filter. With remote security top of mind, DNS Filter lets you block unknown and harmful sites from anywhere. Because it's DNS, users rave that it's the easiest security product to set up. Having started as a service provider, their goal is to be the easiest deployment for MSPs. DNS Perf recently rated DNS Filter the fastest DNS in North America. Check them out at dnsfilter.com/MSP radio for a special extended trial offer.
All right, welcome everybody. This is James Kernan with Kernan Consulting, bringing you the SMB Community Podcast for today. We've got a very special guest, longtime friend, customer, and even business partner, as he's kind of ventured into the next generation of his career, Yoram Baltinester. Yoram, everyone keep the applause down. Good to have you on. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fabulous. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure and it's an honor to be here.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. Well, obviously I know you very well. We've known each other for, I think, 12 plus years, maybe even a little longer. So why don't you introduce yourself? Tell everybody a little bit more about your background and we'll go from there.
Well, my name is Yoram. It's an Israeli name, if you wonder. I was born and raised in Israel. I lived in Israel until I was about 35 years old. Then the company I worked with was kind enough to relocate me directly into sunny San Diego with my wife and 3 kids.
Nice.
Now we have 4. And I worked in various capacity in the software manufacturing world, in the hardware manufacturing world until 2001. Then I owned an IT services company, a managed services company for about 12 years. And ever since, I've been a consultant and an executive coach.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, great. And I think, so obviously I lived in San Diego and had my couple of my companies there for a long time. And I think that's really where we had connected way back when. And I think it was through one of Robin's programs, right? Or
yes,
the
it was.
Millionaire. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we got familiar with one another back then. So you had a successful business. I remember working with you for a couple of years and then you sold the business, right? And kind of moved.
Absolutely. That's why you do businesses, right?
Exactly. So let me ask you, what got you to that point of maybe taking the jump? You know, why did you sell your business at that time? And I remember vividly, you were always intrigued with coaching and consulting, and so I'll let you answer that.
It's a roundabout and an interesting story. I should have never gone into high tech. Now, whether or not you hold the belief that things happen for a reason and all of that, which then would indicate that I was steered into that life, that's fine. But I knew at a very young age, in my very early 20s, that I was fascinated with personal development. I was fascinated with human potential. And that was a very strong hobby of mine. Right. For a long, long time. And in 2012, I got to the point where I said, you know, I think I need to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. And so I made the decision to leave the high tech and software and IT world and do that as a full-time occupation. And that's how I got to do this.
That's great. That's great. So, and what time frame was this?
When I transitioned, that was 2012. I sold my company in 2013, and I had a little bit of an overlap. So I don't just dump everything and go, which is not smart.
Exactly. No, that makes sense. So tell everybody a little bit more about your business today. What do you do today, and what services do you offer?
Well, today I work with high-performing professionals who have gotten to a point where they either go to the next step in their lives or they want to go to the next step in their businesses. So in the business, it would be, how can I become that leader that jumps my business from 6 figures to 7 figures? Or in life, it could be, well, I've done that for 20 years. Do I want to keep doing it for another 20 years, maybe seek a different type of challenge? Or do I want to steer my life a little bit differently, similar to what I've done when I said, you know, there's nothing wrong with my business, but I want to do something else right now.
Right, exactly. One of the things that when I think of you and I think of that transition, that I'm not trying to get all teary-eyed or soft on you, but you rarely see this in this industry. And I value family and my wife. I cherish her, my marriage, my family. I mean, the reality is in business coaching, one of the things I tell clients that I work with is, why do you work so hard? You know, we all have these ambitious goals. We want to make lots of money. So you typically can take better care of your family, right? So
yeah.
One of the things,
yeah, you know, in the IT business specifically, which is how you and I met, it's so funny because you work all day, and when the day is done is when you can really start working, because that's when people leave their offices and you can get access to their databases, you can get access to their servers. So you kind of work a second shift and you end up working 15, 17 hours a day, which is not fun at all. And then Saturdays and holidays. So that, yeah, I totally relate. And I think a lot of people who are going to listen to this are going to relate to that if they are in the IT business.
Yeah. You're burning the candles at both ends. And I think you've got, you're a great family man, got a wonderful wife, wonderful family. And it's beautiful to see that work-life balance that, you know, there's not too many examples in our industry that I can say that to. So congratulations for that. So how do you help, you know, I also think of you in all the training that you've done. I've seen you speak. You've spoken at some of my conferences in the past. You know, I think of you as a personal development guru, you know, the personal development samurai, right? So maybe tell me a little bit more about the training that you went through and how did you kind of customize that and what does that look like when you offer that self-development, personal development to your customers?
Well, without talking for the next 24 hours straight about the training, I think of myself a little bit as a training hoarder. I went to almost every training imaginable. I spent probably well over $500,000 and God knows how many weeks and months and years of training if you put everything together. But I looked through everything personal development ever since my early 20s. I started to teach in 1989, and I developed myself to the point that because of the fact that I didn't need to market it until 2012, I just took everything that I could lay my hands on, and it was everything you can imagine in any aspect of life. So finally, what happened was my workshop, the work with me, the one-on-ones that I'm doing with people, when I do a VIP day or if it is an online program, it all is based on a methodology that I developed. I put together whatever made sense to me in the sequence that I knew worked for me, right, and worked for my clients, and it's called LifeDesign. And what LifeDesign does really in a nutshell is it lays the path for you to discover exactly, very clearly, who you are today and what kind of person you want to be at the end of that tenure, at the end of this duration that we work together, and lay the path for you to go from point A to point B, which I assume would be true of almost any kind of process. But this is geared specifically to develop in you the human and personal traits that you need to develop in order to realize your vision, or make a personal dream come true, or be the leader that takes your company to where you want it to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. So can you elaborate a little bit more? I know you're still based in San Diego and you run workshops and you've got a couple different services. Can you elaborate for everybody a little bit of what does it look like when you work with someone? Maybe explain what the workshops look like, for example.
Well, it looks different today when we're sheltering at home. I can tell you that.
Right.
It is the gamut, really. When I talk to a person the first time and we are kind of building together what they need, then I'll ask them several questions, and they revolve around the amount of time and the duration they want to work together. I'm going to ask them whether they are more comfortable working one-on-one or in a group. And that is to say that I actually have frameworks that work for everything. So if you tell me that you would like to work for 6 months in a group, I have that. It's called life performance, high performance life. If you tell me, no, I don't have time for that, I want a real breakthrough very quickly, and I want to work one-on-one, and I'd say, okay, fine. And then we do what's called a VIP day. Mm-hmm. So what we do is, either way, whatever we do, we go through the same life design framework in order to build who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in, how you want to show up in life, what your vision is, what your even life purpose is, and how you're going to express it. And then we break from that into objective, goal, plan, and everything else that is way more familiar to people especially in a technical industry, to lay the path so it comes down to, okay, it's a Tuesday today. Here is what I need to do. I need to do these 5 action items. And that is going to get me eventually to being who I dream of becoming.
Yeah, I enjoy those types of, I call them hands-on workshops, where you actually get something done and you leave with a finished product. You leave with a plan. You leave with a documented process. You leave with things ready to take into your life or your business or whatever. Unlike a lot of the traditional, workshops that we've been to, or trade shows or events, and you come back with ideas, you just don't have time to implement them because you don't know how to. But I always love the hands-on stuff. It sounds like most of your workshops are really built around those hands-on exercises, right?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. Here's one thing that I can promise you, you're not going to find in any of my workshops: a PowerPoint. Death by PowerPoint was coined for a reason. And if somebody really was of the opinion that it's enough for them to have an idea, a thought, a theory, well, get a book for $15 or get 10 books and invest $150. You don't have to invest $1,500 in something more expensive, because the information is all out there.
Right.
It's the sequencing, what makes sense particularly to a person, and it is what's in your blind spot that makes the coaching industry needed.
Yep.
That's what we're bringing, and it's very hands-on. It's never done for you because, honestly, it's because of that phrase, you can't outsource your push-ups. Mm-hmm. You have to go through the process yourself, but it's done with you. It's there. I do more hand-holding than I ever imagined myself when I grew up that I'm going to end up doing. I grew up as a programmer. Hand-holding was not part of the language. And we end up doing it, and it's so much fun that I just love it.
That's cool. That's great. So I heard you've got a new program out. It's a leadership program, and leadership is near and dear to my heart. Tell me a little bit more about the new MSLP, the Managed Services Leadership Program Certification.
Well, the MSLP, and I love how you ask it as if you're not part of it, but I'll let you and everybody, I'll let the cat out of the bag. And the Managed Services Leadership Program is a program that James and I put together. And I gotta say that, you know, you're very humble, James, but at the end of the day, I kind of, after all these years in personal development, I came to work with you because I've seen what you can do on a personal level rather than the slogans, right? It's kind of nice to have a slogan that says a 36-month millionaire and a story that says how you took a company from pretty much not a whole lot to 8 figures in 3 years. It's awesome. But I also realized that you don't do that by being a technician. You don't do that by being a mechanic of operating companies. You do that by being a leader. Mm-hmm. And that's for everybody who, well, you don't know that that's how I met James, because my ask from James when we started to work together was, hey, I want you to guide me in becoming that leader that can grow my company. And I grew the company to the point where I sold it, and I would have grown it even more had I not sold it based on your mentorship. So
yeah, well, thank you.
I'm grateful that we got to work together, and I'm even more grateful that we got together not so long ago, last year in 2019, and said, okay, well, let's combine the whole body of experience and knowledge that we have, both in the spaces of the information technology, in the space of running a business, and in the space of human development and breakthrough, to create a single program that is a leadership program that is specifically geared to managed services provider, both owners and managers or vice presidents, as the case may be, so that they could, anything from effectiveness to efficiency of these programs hinges on the leadership qualities of whoever runs the group, the team, or the entire company. And at the end of the day, given that every business problem that you can encounter is a personal development problem in disguise, let's put all of that together and create a specific leadership program for that industry, which I was shocked to see that wasn't available. And it's now available because that's what we offer the industry. And I'm just ecstatic about it. I could talk forever.
Well, good. Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I love the blend of the personal development that we have with the work-life balance, and then the leadership, professional leadership development on the business side. And all of those things go together, I think.
Yeah.
And
Let me give you a very, very current example. And we have this thing right now. So if you're listening to the podcast, you may be listening to this in 2022. I don't know. But right now, it's 31st of March of 2020. We're in the midst of sheltering at home because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And when you talk to IT people are rather busy right now. But if you talk to one type of leader, they'll talk to you about, oh, there's such a need in the market for VPNs and work from home solutions. And when you talk to the other leader in the market, the true leader in the space of IT, they'll tell you, this is a time to build a community. This is a time to create a relationship. This is the time to be helpful to our clients and to the people in the market. And they're leading in a totally different way. And you can just imagine how that would pay off for the leaders in terms of corporate growth.
Right.
While this thing is happening, and even tenfold when this whole COVID pandemic is over.
Right.
And
exactly.
That's what we love doing in this program. I enjoy every moment of it.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah. It's if there's ever a time and a place for more leaders, it's today. Leading through this crisis. And a lot of people in crisis mode, watching the media, people get scared, and it's a lot of fear marketing with the media, and fear paralyzes people. It makes them not make decisions and not want to move forward. And, that's important to be a strong leader. So let me kind of ask you this. If there's some tidbits of anybody listening currently dealing with fear, wanting to be a better leader, what would you say to them? What can they do today to be a better leader or to step outside of fear?
You don't have time to be afraid when you take action. And I would farther go, and you know how I always talk about two things, and you're going to hear from me a lot, these two phrases, decisive action and high performance. And as a leader, what you need to do, what makes you a high performance leader, is the ability to be nimble and steer your following as a leader, steer the people in your circle, your sphere of influence, and create pivots quickly based on what is needed right now. Not based on what the horrible thing that could happen is, but what is needed in order to actually make progress through a crisis. And decisive action is the part that says, you know what, this is a time of crisis, we need to act fast, and it might be messy. And it might not be 100% perfect, and it might not be even 90% perfect, but it's going to be a decisive, imperfect action that implements a pivot that we need right now. Come on, let's go. That's what I would say. Make sure to be present to what's going on, not to the prediction. It doesn't matter right now today whether this pandemic is going to take 2 more months or 6 more months. It doesn't right now today. What matters is what the circle of people that you're leading needs, and what is the next action that you need to take in order to make progress on that path. And when you have that, when you're taking that action, you're too busy to be in your fears. You're too busy to sit there all day watching CNN and whatever President Trump is saying on the White House conference. It's just, you can get an update later at night. Yeah, that's what I would say to them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's an interesting time. And I know you and I have talked a little bit about this as well, but my words of encouragement to everybody is, stay positive. Leaders are encouragers. They stay positive. They're optimistic. And you need to be that broker of hope where your team is connecting to you. So stay positive, stay connected to the communities, get valid information, and you want to be the source of the information. That's why it's important to stay connected to your peer groups, your communities, gather the information, and leaders share that information out front, not just with your team, but for your customers. Customers are terrified as well. So make sure you're over communicating to your clients that you're there, you're available to help them. And then, because I'm a marketeer, keep marketing yourself. Yoram, do you remember in business back in 2001? Everyone's going to laugh at me, but that was the year that I left this big mid six figure, big corporate VP job where I was part owner in a privately held company. I left that job and I bought this little boutique called Networks Plus. It was 2000 when I did that. And what terrible timing I had because of all the bad stuff that happened in 2001. But I didn't have a choice. I marketed right through that. And while the economy flattened out, stock market dropped, I grew like crazy because I marketed myself when everybody else was paralyzed in fear, not doing that. And I know you did the same thing. We talked about that before.
Yeah, you and me both. I was working I lost my last job, my last job, the weekend before September 11th. And I was sitting there on September 12th, basically going, oh, well, what now?
Yeah.
And the only thing available at that point to me was not employment. The only thing available was to start a company and just run as fast as I can through it and do what I could do. And it paid off and it was great. And going back to what you just said about being the broker of information, there's a side to that people don't realize. That there's a side to that where people say, well, I am in the IT business, and and I have these customers, I don't know why I should be the person who tells them about what's available. Well, let me tell you why. Because you may be the one who for example, you may be the one who draws their attention to what the Small Business Administration offers now in terms of loans and grants to businesses who are in trouble and those who are not even in trouble. Mm-hmm. And you might just put them on the path, if nothing else, to be able to pay you for your services.
Right.
And that is both helpful to your clients and helpful to yourself. It's helpful all around, even if it's not how to defend themselves against the latest computer virus.
Right. Yep, exactly. All right, fantastic. So Yoram, tell everybody, how do they get a hold of you? How do they get more information? If they've got questions for you, how do they get more information about your programs?
That's illegal. You can't get in touch with me. Just joking. Well, let me share a phone number and a website. My website is heyyoram.com, just like if you would call me from across the street, because we're social distancing. It's like, hey, Yoram. So H-E-Y, and Yoram is YORAM.com. That is my website. And you can, if you need something, you can just call me. Here's my number. It's area code 858 US. If you're calling me from outside the US, it's of course +1 858 356 6751.
All right.
And my website, or you can contact James. We work together. We're partners now. And above all, the easiest and best way long-term to get a hold of me is to be part of the Managed Services Leadership Program, which I really hope that you would find that it's useful for you and join.
Great. Awesome. Awesome. You're always good to catch up with you. Thank you for sharing with everybody. We're going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to the SMB Community Podcast. If you found this useful, interesting, or fun, please subscribe, share with your friends, and give us a thumbs up on your favorite social media. Please check out the show notes at smbcommunitypodcast.com and give us your feedback.